Hey there! Even in games, we can't get away from inflation. I promise it's not us. The enemies have been getting more and more HP. That's where Big Herta shines the most. She is the definition of just keep hitting them. Anyways, let's dive into her beta kit. Her overall skills, playstyle, potential issues, her compatibility with certain characters, and will she continue the trend of emanators being cheat codes? Overall, is she worth pulling? At first glance, Final Form Herta may seem to have a kit complicated enough to rival the latest League of Legends character, but we don't need a TED Talk to understand how she works. Let's begin with her basic attack. There's nothing special here, just a regular single target attack. Next is her skill, which has two variations. I'll go more into details about her stacking mechanics afterwards. The regular skill will hit a main target, give enemies interpretation stacks, and damage adjacent enemies repeating 2 times. Her enhanced skill is essentially a higher damage multiplier version of her regular skill, with an additional final attack that is fully AoE. In order to use her enhanced skill, she needs a resource called Inspiration. So there's Interpretation and Inspiration. These are the core of her stacking mechanic. Interpretations are stacks that Herta and her teammates apply on enemies upon attacking. This is very similar to Acheron's stacking mechanic on enemies. Inspirations are more of an additional SP-like resource that she needs in order to use the enhanced version of her skill. So far, at E0, she only has one way to get inspiration stacks, and that is to use her ult. Just think of it this way: hit enemies, get interpretation stacks. Use her ult, get inspiration stacks. At the end of the day, both types of stacks just leads to more damage. Next is her ult. It rearranges the number of interpretation stacks on all enemies, prioritizing higher tier enemies to get more stacks. Then she will damage all enemies and she can immediately take another action. She also gains a stack of inspiration, which, once again, will unlock her enhanced skill. Remember earlier when I said her enhanced skill is a higher damage multiplier version of her regular skill? This is because of her talent. The simplest explanation is that the more stacks of interpretation an enemy have, the higher the multiplier will be on her enhanced skill. More stacks on an enemy, more damage they will take. Here are the rest of her talents. 1. When enemy enters a battle, they get 1 stack. 2. Herta gets an even higher multiplier if there are at least 2 Erudition characters on the team. Sounds familiar? And finally, 3. Defeated enemies will have their stacks transferred over. Now, for her 3 main traces. Trace number 1. Ally attacks generate 1 interpretation stack. Herta will regenerate a fixed number of energy per enemy's hit by her allies with a maximum limit of 5 enemies. Trace number 2. Increase all allies' crit damage if there are at least 2 Erudition characters on the team. It also slightly modifies her trace number 1 from earlier, making it count as 3 enemies being hit at the minimum. This just means even if an ally hits 1 enemy, the energy regenerated from that will count as if it's 3 enemies. And trace number 3 is just more damage for Herta's ult. Moving on, are there any major issues and red flags? Short answer, not really. Long answer, it's still not really. Okay, hear me out. You know how E0 Acheron needs 2 Nihility characters, excluding herself, to get her maximum multipliers? Well, Herta 2.0's 2 Erudition character restriction is much more lenient. She counts herself as one of the 2. Let me repeat that. She counts herself as one of the 2. If we just look at the current roster of Erudition characters that she can choose from, it's a healthy range between free-to-play and premium characters. Worst case scenario, we can just pair up Earth 616 Herta with basic Herta, who is as free as WinRaw. The only thing that may raise a bit of concern is probably her energy cost. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it's pretty high. On the current beta version, it's 220 energy, This puts her directly at the second highest ult cost in the game. And first place Firefly doesn't even count because Firefly's skill regens a bunch of energy. Luckily, Herta Prime also has a similar energy regen mechanic built into her kit, mainly 2 of her traces. Okay, quick math. Every time an ally hits an enemy, Herta will gain 3 energy per enemy hit. All that means is that every time an ally attacks, Herta can regenerate 9 energy at the minimum and 15 energy at the maximum. So circling back to the beginning, more attacks equal more energy and stacks, which will eventually lead to more damage. Moving on, what does all of this really mean for her playstyle? Herta Pro Max plays around her stacking mechanic. The game plan is to generate as many interpretation stacks as possible from attacking enemies. It could be Herta doing the attacking, or it could be her allies doing the attacking. It doesn't matter here. She just wants the stacks. We do this because more interpretation stacks means higher multiplier on her enhanced skill. The only thing to keep in mind is that her enhanced skill will reduce the number of interpretation stacks, so we do need to take timing into consideration. If we use her enhanced skill too early, the damage output won't be maximized. If we use her enhanced skill too late, then we end up holding it for too long, therefore probably losing out the damage that we could be dishing out. To recap all of that, use her skill to build stacks. Use her ult to get access to her enhanced skill, which is going to be her big boom boom damage. And since using her ult is the only way to access her enhanced skill, this puts a priority on you to make sure she can get her ult as much as possible. Moving on, let's talk about who she's going to pair up nicely with. Herta Galaxy S24 Ultra wants her teammates to check off a few of the following boxes. 1. Low SP usage. Herta is always SP priority number 1. 2. Follow the path of Erudition. Because of her 2 Erudition character condition, at least one of her teammates has to be Erudition. However, don't let that ever stop you from trying to cook. Anyways, 3. Can attack multiple enemies at once. As explained earlier, she only cares about stacks and energy regen. So the more enemies that get hit, the more energy she can regenerate. And finally, number 4, is able to attack frequently, same reason as above. With those requirements in mind, let's look at some of her potential teammates. Starting with Sustain, which is relatively simple. Lingsha and Aventurine are both characters with AoE attacks, can attack frequently, and keep the team alive. Huohuo is also a great option if we find that the rest of the team is slacking in helping Herta to regenerate energy. The free-to-play option is Gallagher, and it's not even close. Anyways, let's look at Lingsha for a bit. The attack frequency of Lingsha varies with how much SP we are willing to invest into her skill. The more SP we feed her, the more often she can use her AoE attacks via her skill and ults, which directly also speeds up her rabbit to do AoE attacks as well. There's also the potential synergy of using Jade with Lingsha as a Debt Collector duo. Debt Collector Lingsha gets a crazy speed buff which enables her to attack more often, which means more rapid attacks, which also allow Jade to attack more often as well. This chain reaction isn't only between those two. With Lingsha, her rabbit, and Jade attacking like zombies, Herta will be able to generate tons of stacks and energy. There is much more details to the Lingsha Jade combo, but that's essentially the general idea. Also, bonus points if the enemies have fire weaknesses. On the subject of Jade, let's talk about the Erudition characters that we need to run in order to reach the 2 Erudition team requirements. Jade is the clear standout among the roster of characters. If this was a CSGO major, then Jade will be the tournament favorite. This doesn't mean it's Jade or bust. There are more than one viable options. Jade just happens to check all of the boxes from earlier. In terms of SP usage, Debt Collector will last 3 turns. She is by far the least SP intensive character from the list. Every single attack from Jade is an AoE attack. She helps a lot with generating interpretation stacks and energy for Herta Prime. Also, something to note is that with Jade on the team, we could get away with running attack percent boots instead of speed boots. This is because of the speed buff from Death Collector's skill. Now, what about those who didn't pull on Jade? There are other free-to-play options available, the top two being Mini Herta and Himeko. Himeko has a higher potential ceiling against fire weakness enemies. She's even better if Lingsha is also on the team. But in general settings, I personally bias towards Mini Herta. It's easier for Mini Herta to trigger her follow-up attack. It's much more consistent in my experience. Mini Herta's skill is also a full AoE attack, unlike Himeko's skill, which only hits 3 targets max. Servo is also a great free-to-play option for similar reasons. The only Erudition character I would put a restraining order on is QQ. She is too SP reliant to function properly on these teams. While we are still on the topic of free-to-play options, don't sleep on the Trailblazer. Trailblazer might also be viable once they get kidnapped by Remembrance. Do note that Remembrance Trailblazer is not an Erudition character, so we still need one to complete the requirement. Anyways, after picking an Erudition character, all that's left is the final spot. This is usually reserved for a premium support character. There is a large cast of characters to pick from here, so I will focus on 3 of them, the Burst Siblings and Rame. Let's start with the man who made Jing Yuan great again, Sunday. Sunday gives out crit damage and crit rate buffs. There aren't too many damage dealers who can say no to those specific stat boosts. Not to mention, Sunday's ult is also a substantial energy battery. The minor issue to watch out for with Sunday is the SP consumption, especially if you don't have his light cone. Imagine a team of Sunday, Herta, and Lingsha. There might not be enough SP to go around between those 3, so the 4th member of this team better be SP positive. Now, for his sister, Robin. Both Robin and Rame serve a very similar role on Herta's team. They are low SP usage characters who act as an SP battery while buffing the entire team with their skill, talent, and ult. This is nice since every single Herta team will have 2 Erudition characters. By having buffs that are team-wide instead of single target, we can boost the damage output of everyone on the team. Let's say we are running premium Herta with Walmart Herta. Will the 4-star do as much damage as the 5-star? No. But this doesn't change the fact that the Walmart version is going to be attacking many times during the battle. So it is beneficial to have a support who can buff both Hertas at the same time. Overall, the default team template is usually Big Herta, 1 Erudition character, 1 support, and finally, a sustain. The common team comp is likely going to be Jade, Robin, or Sunday, and a sustain. Of course, Herta is flexible enough for us to swap around teammates depending on who's available. The only real constraint that she has is needing another Erudition character to fully maximize her multiplier number. Other than that, feel free to go crazy with your cooking. Moving on, the question of the day, is Herta Senior worth pulling? As with all other damage dealers, pulling on these characters largely depends on your account situation. Herta Premium has all the tools to be a top tier character that will do well in all endgame content, not just pure fiction. With that said though, if you are struggling with pure fiction, then getting her is going to make life so much easier. I'm not from the future, but I think we can all agree that she will be the uncontested #1 ice element damage dealer. She is also going to be a plug and play character because of the many premium and free-to-play options available to use as her teammate. Overall, I think she is a good addition to any account. As for myself, I'm still debating internally. Jingliu holds a special place in my heart as my first E6 character. I can't find it in me to replace her with a younger and newer ice character. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching. Okay,